Yes.
Hello everyone. Myself, Mrs. Bisma Sheikh. I'm an audiologist and speech language pathologist, and we are conducting some live sessions on autism spectrum disorders since April is considered to be the Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. And today we have with us Dr. Priyanka Parekh. Hello, ma'am. And
Hello.
she's a developmental pediatrician. Yeah, I'll just introduce ma'am. She has completed her MD, DNB, DCH, and FCPS in pediatrics from Mumbai, followed by MR CPCH from London, and she has training and experience in developmental pediatrics from both London and Mumbai. She has over 20 plus years of experience in developmental pediatrics in various childhood disorders like autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, learning disability, slow learners, and so on. And she is a consultant at various leading hospitals in Mumbai, which includes SRCC Children's Hospital, Sethi Hospital, Jefflock Hospital, and an honorary at BJ Wadia Hospital for Children. So it's a pleasure to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bisma, for your kind introduction.
Yeah, I can see many of them. I think they have worked with you or they knew you who have joined us over here. So it's really nice to have everyone.
I work with so many of you, and it's a pleasure to see you all because we are on one team, right?
Yes, definitely. Okay, ma'am, I will start with asking you a very common query that parents come across. So how is a developmental pediatrician different from a pediatrician? Like usually parents' first point of contact is a pediatrician. They know, but they don't know when we are referring them to a developmental pediatrician. What purpose is it for?
Yes.
So if you can elaborate.
Yes. So the developmental pediatrics is now recently known field. It's gaining its importance, and people are also becoming more aware. So developmental pediatricians are pediatricians, but with additional training and experience of working with children, diagnosing and treatment of children with different developmental, behavioral, as well as academic concerns. So it is mainly related to different aspects of childhood development and behavior as well as learning, and it spans through right from the newborn age till adolescents and young adults. So again, different children have different concerns related to development. As you pointed out, it could be developmental delays or isolated delays like speech delays or
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for telling about that, ma'am. Now, coming to autism, how would you define autism and what does the spectrum actually mean?
Yes, it's one word, but it means so much. We all have worked with children with autism. So, see, if we have to scientifically define autism, it's a neurodevelopmental condition, and it involves challenges. Children, adolescents, and even adults, different individuals having challenges with social communications, social interactions, and also certain typical repetitive patterns of behavior, as well as the way they sense their surroundings. So the way they feel, they experience, they hear, and different aspects of sensory concern. So autism is a very, very wide spectrum involving a lot of challenges. So to put it simply, it is the way children and adult and even adults are able to communicate, behave, respond. It is they do it differently compared to other children. So it is mainly challenges in social communication, social interaction, as well as restricted repetitive patterns of behavior.
True. So,
and yes, you
said,
also
there is
asked about the spectrum, right? How wide is the spectrum was another thing which you were talking about. So autism is one word, but every child with autism is different. So it is said that if you have seen one child with autism, you have only seen one child with autism. So it is a very, very wide spectrum. very, very wide spectrum, ranging from within the spectrum, children having, milder difficulties, milder challenges to some children having very severe challenges and needing a lot of support. Now, again, when we talk about the spectrum, within the spectrum, children have, different abilities, different, cognitive potentials. So again, intellectual abilities of children are different, ranging from some children having low intellectual abilities to many of them actually being as equally intelligent as their peers. It is just that they're not socially communicating, and some even having above average or superior intelligence. They are much smarter than their peers, but still they are, alone in their own
Yes.
worlds. And even the expressive language development is so much on a spectrum. There are, some children who are, just not able to speak, and they are what we call as non-verbal, whereas there are many who are actually even showing advanced vocabulary, speaking very difficult words,
True.
but still having difficulties in conversations with people. So it is a very, very wide spectrum.
True. As
And
you
again,
rightly
it's
said, if
important
you
to look at the strengths of the child and the challenges, and then work with the child accordingly.
true. So, as you rightly said, if you've seen one child, then you've really seen only one child with autism. It's a really wide
Yes,
spectrum. Each child presents in a different way. So,
yes, yes.
coming to what are some of the red flags that parents should notice in their child's development, so that early identification is possible.
Yes, so now with increasing awareness of autism, earlier autism was considered that it can be diagnosed only at 3 years, 4 years, after that. But now with increasing awareness and a lot of research happening, there are a lot of red flags which can be picked up at a very young age. So although if you have to give a definitive diagnosis, I may do it at 2 years, sometimes younger, sometimes I may wait to see how the patterns are evolving. But I can still see red flags, related to autism at a much younger age also, which will, alert me to at least start some intervention. So what are these red flags? Typically, there are, so many parents who come and say that, my child is not responding to me when I'm calling to my child, is it seems like is ignoring, or there are inconsistencies that in which confuse parents also, that sometimes it responds, sometimes it doesn't respond. And again, there are inconsistencies that the child may be responding to sounds better, that as soon as a favorite rhyme comes on a mobile, the child runs towards that mobile, and then when the parent is calling, the child is disregarding, not really responding or looking at the parent. So inconsistent respond to name or not responding to name is quite an early marker. Other aspects of communication, what we call is non-verbal communication. So when we are talking of autism and autism having communication difficulties as well as social interaction difficulties, these communication difficulties are both verbal as well as non-verbal. So it's not just communicating with words, but even communicating with actions, gestures, body language. So in fact, even before the child learns to say mum, do, the child will learn to point and
Point.
show what the child wants.
Exactly.
So the child not pointing towards
Yes.
things that the child wants, and it's not just for need, even to share your interest, that you like something. You saw a doggy and you say, oh, look, there's this doggy, or a moon in the sky. So you're showing
Yeah.
so many things to share with your parents, and equally even responding to the parents. So what we call as joint attention. So when parents are showing, look, the auto, look, that bus is going, look, that pigeon. So the children immediately respond and respond
Yeah.
to what the parent is trying to show. So when the parents see that the child is not really communicating, not using words, not even pointing, because responding to name comes between 6 months to 9 months to 1 year.
9 months of age.
Pointing, non-verbal communication, in fact, comes before verbal. You learn to point at
True.
things first before you even learn to speak. That same word, you'll
True.
point at the fan before you learn to speak. So when we see these things, when we see that the child is not regulating eye contact, not looking in the eye, inconsistent eye contact, when we see aspects related to even the verbal speech delay, that the child is not babbling at
True.
9 months, what we say non-specific babbling, or not speaking at least one meaningful word, at 1 year. So, these are the early red flags. And in fact, research has shown that there are so many things which we can even pick up even earlier than that. Like
Earlier,
even
true.
at 3 months, if a child is, not looking at mama, not giving that social smile, because
True.
mother is the first person the child will recognize, will smile back. But if you see child is not giving that eye contact, not giving that social smile at 3 months also, even at 6 months, because they're trying to really pick up even earlier than 1 year within the infancy. Even at 6 months, there is so much of a to and fro exchange happening
Communication,
between parents and
exactly.
children. They're just making sounds, and the child makes those sounds back. So, the
Yeah,
to and fro exchange of sounds, laughter, those cooing sounds, gurgling sounds, a lot of these to and fro exchange of sounds happen. Interaction happens, the child and parents are engaged. But even at 6 months, 5, 6 months, if you don't see this happening, we have to be, on the red alert as to why is the child not responding. Other things
true.
may or may not have come up, but these are red flags. And going further, as
Yes.
the child is beyond 1 year, I just want to check, am I heard? Because your screen is a little frozen.
Uh, I can hear you, but your screen is frozen. Yeah, now it's
Hello.
started.
Am I heard or
Hello. Yes, ma'am. You are heard, but your screen was loading in between. Now
hello?
it has started. Again, it's showing a loading sign.
All right. So yes, shall I continue? Okay, am I heard?
Yeah. Yeah, you can continue. Yeah, you are heard. You are heard.
Yes. So, as we were talking of, that infancy, and then as we go further, we do start seeing some behavioral patterns coming up. If we see a child showing, repetitive patterns of behavior, that, doing the same things over and over again, as a child develops motor skills, we see that the child is now, going around in circles in a very repetitive, purpose. Concerns like the child hyper reacting to sounds, or the child not liking touching certain things. So there are so many behaviors which evolve over a period of time. So when we
True.
see early red flags, we
True.
definitely need to keep a watch on how is the behavior pattern evolving.
Yeah. So, as you rightly said, one of the classic differences between a child who's having a plain language delay versus a child who is having autism is their inability to use nonverbal communication as well.
Absolutely.
A child on a language delay, plain language delay, will use nonverbal communication, will interact socially appropriately. But on the other hand, a child with autism will not. So that
Yes,
is one
yes.
of the classic
So
differences
one
that
of the
help us.
classic differences, because so many times parents also say that ye सिर्फ speech. So a lot of actions the child does, in fact, does it over and more than what any other child would have done, because the child really wants to compensate for the speech delay. So he's able to get his needs across with actions.
Across.
He's still
True.
socially also interactive. So the
True.
child's interaction engagement is still as much there. The child won't be just wanting to be alone and wanting not to engage or communicate. Plus we have to also see a lot of the other patterns of behavior.
True. Okay. Now, coming to how is autism diagnosed? How is it really diagnosed? Now, if we have
Yes.
syndromes or genetic disorders, we usually have genetic testing. We have blood tests available through which the diagnosis can happen. For cerebral palsy, we have MRI, CT scans which can show a brain damage. But for autism, nothing like that is available. So parents are really asking, what is causing this problem in my child? How do I find out the cause?
Yes, yes. So that's a very good question. I just, before I answer that, I just want to check. I am reading one comment that somebody has written lost video and sound. Am I able to be, am I heard?
Okay, now you are hearing. In between it was loading. Is ma'am audible? Hello? Somebody
Yes.
is saying
Am I
lost video
audible?
and sound. You are audible, but there is some network issue happening from your side, ma'am, wherein it's loading and your sound is
Now,
going off in
yeah.
between.
All right. So somebody has written now it's
Now you
heard.
are
So I'll
audible.
just continue with the question. Yes.
Yeah.
So see, when we
Okay,
are,
so
talking of
in any case, if it's not heard, someone can just message. Yeah.
message, yes. So even I'm aware that, we need to just recheck and just
Yes,
be
yes.
sure that we are
Right,
heard.
right. Yeah.
It's okay if we are not seen. So, you were talking of diagnosis of autism. So, as you rightly said, that autism does not have any blood test or any CT scan or any MRIs or any genetic tests to diagnose. Autism is a purely clinical diagnosis, which which is done by professionals, medical professionals who have experience and training with looking at the different aspects of development as well as behavior, and looking at certain criteria which are defined to classify a child under the autism spectrum disorder. And again, having said that, earlier with the previous diagnostic criteria, there used to be even separate categories of autistic disorder. There was a category of Asperger's. There was also a category of pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified. There were different names given. But now, with the recent criteria of after the 2013 division of criteria, we put all the challenges under one umbrella term called autism spectrum disorder, and it is based on specific behavioral patterns that we see. So even an Asperger's profile of child who is a much better intellect, cognitive potential, or even a much better expressive language potential, what we would earlier call the child to be as Asperger's syndrome, is now currently classified under the autism spectrum disorder. So it is a purely clinical. Then there are, of course, different scales to corroborate your diagnosis. It's not that one diagnosis by some numbers, that ye number aaya to autism, and it is a multi-pronged approach. It is still your clinical evaluation, your from what the different features that you see, and you can corroborate it with different scales. But there is no CT scan or no MRI which diagnoses. There are no genetic tests to diagnose, but there are supportive tests to try and find the etiology or the cause behind the autism spectrum. So autism is the clinical behavior and development that we see. But the child with autism can have different causative factors behind autism. So there is a very strong genetic predisposition. Sometimes there may be prematurity. Sometimes there may be a history related to hypoxia, not having had enough oxygen at birth. So sometimes there may be a family history. So there could be different positive factors behind the features of autism that we see. So we first see features of autism and diagnose based on your clinical criteria, but we can use tests to further investigate the likely possible causative agents or any associated conditions that we may see. So we do, many times advise some genetic tests, or we may need to do some additional tests to, complete the whole aspect of evaluation. But there is no test to do this and you see a report and you say that this is autism.
True, true. That is very important for parents also to understand. Because many a times, even before focusing on the treatment, parents are like, focusing on the cause. Because is there a way through which we can, just remove this cause and treat my child? So that is the thing parents have. So it's really important to know that how the diagnosis of autism is made. Now, coming to the other important question, ma'am, is early diagnosis important in cases of autism, and why?
Yes, it is. It is very, very important. It is $1 million question, and that is a thing which I would, want everybody to understand that early diagnosis, early picking up of even red flags is very, very important, because research has shown that currently this is, this is the proven, it's an evidence-based approach to, management of children with autism, because this has shown that if you diagnose early and if you intervene early, that can definitely, change the eventual developmental outcomes, and you can try and get the best possible outcome for the child by doing an early diagnosis and starting early interventions. Now, what is the scientific rationale behind it? So it is all related to what we call as neuronal plasticity, right? Because see, when we are going through that phase of development, what is happening actually in the brain? We are, there are so many synapses, there are so many neuronal circuits which are there in the brain, and every skill that a child is learning, so many things are happening to all those neuronal circuits. There are new connections being made, new circuits being formed, with every skill, that you are learning. So there is a lot of connecting as well as pruning. So, pruning of unwanted neuronal circuits and synapses. So this is, happening in the brain. And if you see that the brain, the head growth is maximum in the first 5 years, maximum in the first 2 to 3, and then it goes till 5 years. So typically when you go for your well baby visits, you have head circumference, height, weight monitoring. Head grows for the maximum in the first 5 years. Then your length, height, weight keeps growing. So this is a time of, development and, forming a lot of synapses, circuits, connections. So when we give the interventions at this time of, brain growth, at this time of, development, what we do is we help strengthen the, the synapses. We help with the development, because, it is dependent, the plasticity is also dependent on environmental input. So what the child is not able to learn, and if the child has delays and deficits, with some particular.
You have paused, ma'am. Hello? Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah,
can you hear
may
me?
have to repeat that last part. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
Can you please
yes. So
repeat the
when we
last part?
give, yes, I will. So when we are, giving that, when I talked of neuronal plasticity and, a lot of connections, synapses being forming, some unwanted synapses getting pruned, the neural circuit. So there's a lot of these plasticity happening in the initial years. So when we give that input, it also depends on the input from the environment. So the skill that the child is not able to learn or has delays or deficits, when we are giving that positive input, it will help strengthen those connections. And over a period of time, with those, that positive intervention that we are doing, the child will learn that skill, because you're in that phase of that development and you're giving that positive input even from the environment. That's the reason why, rather than waiting कि चलो एक और साल लड़का है, थोड़ा लेट बोलता है, एक साल वेट करते हैं, एक साल देखिए पापा भी लेट बोले थे, so many things parents come. अभी कोविड है, कहे बाहर ही नहीं गया है तो कैसे सीखेगा? So a lot of parents try to justify with a lot of these kind of arguments, or it's just more like you to self justify, that let's wait for the interventions. But no, it is important that if we see delays, if we are picking up red flags, it is important to intervene early rather than wait a year or two, because the same intervention will have much better effect when started earlier than later.
True. Many parents actually, they are scared of getting their children diagnosed, or as I can say, labeled, and that is why they choose to avoid doing it or delay doing it. But the
Yes.
purpose of assessment is not diagnosing or labeling a child. The purpose of assessment is
Absolutely.
identifying the limitations and the strengths, and to work on the child so that he can develop better and at a faster rate. The earlier you identify, the faster the child develops. So many
Yes.
times
Yes.
parents come like, नहीं हमको autism का label नहीं चाहिए, या they are not able to ready to accept. that thing.
Yes.
So it's really important that you highlighted over here how the neural plasticity plays a role, how stimulation plays a role in the child's development, and how the early years, the first 5 years, are so important. So thank you for that, ma'am. Yeah, and now coming to the next question now, a very common myth that was recently doing the rounds in parent groups or child development forums, that vaccines cause autism. So what would be your take on this, ma'am? Do
Yes.
vaccines really cause autism?
No, I mean, it has been proven. Research is a lot of, scientific research has also been done. So it is not just a, statement. It is a statement based on a lot of research which has been done. And no vaccine, especially MMR, was, implicated as, causative behind. Then some thiomersal containing vaccines. So some even different vaccines. So it has been proven beyond doubt by a lot of research that vaccines do not cause autism. You know why? Possibly sometimes parents may think that vaccinations are causing, because sometimes what parents see is that in the initial 1 year the child is they are not really seeing many concerns, and in many children you do see something called as regression, like the child has learned to speak a few words, the child is giving an eye contact, is doing is interacting, they have not really picked up many concerns, and suddenly around 18 months 15 months, between 15 months to 2 years, you see some skills going down and they say, अरे ये तो इतना वर्ड्स बोलता भी था फिर बंद कर दिया, ये तो हमारे साथ इंटरेक्ट करता था लेकिन अभी एकदम अकेला अकेला रहता है. So they feel that something has happened at that point when suddenly the child lost the skill, and this is the time when a lot of those early childhood immunizations are also happening.
Yes.
You have your boosters and things like that. So many times things around that event get linked, that it is possibly because of this, and they don't understand that regression is also a pattern of presentation. So there are some children who are showing those delays right from the beginning, but there are also some children who are developing, maybe they may be having delays, but they're not really picked up, or not something which has really caused concerns for parents to have gone and met someone. But suddenly when they see that, oh, these words have gone down, the child is now suddenly not interacting, and it happens over a period of few weeks or months, that's when they start getting concerned, and they try to find out reasons around that event, or around that period. So vaccinations do tend to get implicated, but it has been proven by research also that vaccines don't cause autism. In fact, when that MR campaign was also going on, there were a lot of queries. When they were going around in schools, even for this MR vaccination and all, that should we give or should we not give? So you should continue with your regular immunizations.
Yes, yes, and immunization is life-saving. So
Yes,
that is
yes.
a very important thing. It is a life-saving thing. So by avoiding it, you're putting the child's life at risk. So it's
Yes.
best that you immunize the child. And since research has proven that there is no such link between vaccines and autism, I think it will solve many doubts of most parents. Now, coming to another question that I do come across by parents, that is there any cure for autism? Can medicines cure autism? Are there any medicines that can help my child develop, improve, or come out of autism?
So we don't have any medicines to cure autism. Autism is supposed to be a lifelong condition, and as we were saying that autism is a developmental condition. That means a child who has autism is born with autism. It is not something like a disease or an infection which you get because of germs infecting your body from outside, and something that you have acquired from outside, you're born with it. It is just that you start seeing features related to autism as the child starts growing older. So for example, if a child is not walking or not yet sitting, the physical delay comes to our notice much earlier. Within the first day you will start seeing that, oh, the child is not doing this. The delays related to language and social delays, start coming to our notice as the child starts growing a little older, and you say, oh, he's not yet speaking words, or he's, not yet interacting, but it is present since birth. And we have also understood there is a genetic basis to it, that it is related to changes or mutations at the genetic level. So when we understand all this, we know that it is not some medicine which will, it is related to a different kind of wiring in the brain, right? It is the neuronal circuit is differently wired. That's what we say, and that's why they react differently, they respond differently. So we don't have a medicine which will, refix that wiring, but we do have many interventions which will, help with the development, and what we talked about, even the plasticity. Medicines do have a role in some children with autism, especially if they have, a lot of behavioral comorbidity. So medicines are not for improving core features like, communication, socialization, interactions, or, even certain repetitive behavior patterns. So we don't have medicines which will make a child talk or which will make a child interact with, other people, but medicines can help control certain behavior patterns which are, which are seen as comorbid with autism. Like, some children could be extremely hyperactive, and if they're not sitting, then the interventions whatever we are trying to do, we are really not able to achieve because the child is just not sitting. Or a child may be very aggressive, maybe going and pinching people or hitting, or may also show aggression towards his or her own self, like self-harming behaviors, head banging, or it could be self-biting. So if the behaviors go beyond control, and then we find that we are also not able to achieve the goals of our intervention, we definitely would use medicines to help children to control those behaviors, so that we are also able to intervene and the child is more receptive. So it's a combination of medical treatment where it is required, but we need to understand that which child needs medications, which child will just do well with interventions, and then we have to plan our interventions accordingly. But no
Yes,
medicines
exactly.
to completely cure autism, or just get it out of the body, like how you cure malaria or typhoid. It is gone because you've given that course of antibiotics and it's cleared. It is not an infection or germs which are cleared, it is your development which we are trying to improve.
Yeah, so the change is at the genetic level that cannot be
Yes,
modified or treated through medicines. It requires a
yes,
different intervention. Now, coming to
yes.
intervention, what kind of interventions will help children with autism spectrum disorders?
So again, there are a lot of interventions that we need, and we need to, as we have understood that every child of autism is different, we need to understand, what are the interventions that we need. So it is not like a one size fits all, that you do this for children with autism, but what we need to understand is, what is the developmental profile of that child, and what kind of interventions would help that child. So again, the interventions include a lot of therapies. You are one of the important members, and so many of you in the audience are part of the interventionists. So you have speech therapy, and then you have occupational therapy, and there are a lot of behavior intervention models for autism. Some are very structured, some are more play developmental based models. So we need to use a combination of all these intervention approaches. Again, we need to see whether what say, for example, from speech therapy, which you, of course, you can elaborate more on that, where what would you use for a child who is relatively more verbal compared to
Your video is paused, ma'am. You may have to repeat the last bit again. Hello.
Yeah, yeah, I got you back. I was not able to see you. I don't know whether I
Yes.
was seen or heard.
No, your video was paused. I was able to see you, but I was not
Okay.
able to hear you. So, if we can just have a rephrase of the last bit with
Okay.
regards to
So
intervention.
as we were, yes, so what we were talking about the interventions is that we need to tailor the interventions for every child. So what we said that it's not like a one size fits all. So you do have different therapies like the speech therapy or occupational therapy and even behavior intervention models which could be structured for children who are not showing too many initiatives, or it could be more playway based models where you go by the lead of the child, developmental based models. So there are also a lot of autism behavior intervention models, and we need to see what will work for a particular child. So we need to understand the developmental profile of the child, and then tailor and form the intervention programs for the child. Now, as a speech therapist, you are working with children who are non-verbal compare, and also children who are speaking a lot, but they have more pragmatic difficulties. They are not able to understand social cues, or not able to read between lines, or not able to they just take things literally, otherwise doing cognitively well, or academically well in school. So you are a speech and language therapist, or there are so many in the audience who are working, but your approach to a non-verbal child where you'll be using more visual cues or more pictures or more other alternative augmentative communication techniques compared to what you would use with a child who is more verbal but having those subtle pragmatic difficulties. So we need to tailor. So it may be called just a language therapy or an occupational therapy, but we need to see. And I think definitely you can elaborate better and add on more to that.
Yeah. So basically, one of the important thing that happens when a child is on the autism spectrum, even if the child is verbal, they are able to label a lot of words. They are able to label maybe dinosaurs or planets. But when it comes to meaningful communication, when it comes to using those words for communication, they are unable to do so. So our focus on therapy for a verbal child with autism would be meaningful communication, interaction, building joint attention with the family members and other carers or siblings. And one important thing is development of play. That is one of the very
Absolutely.
important things in children who are on the autism spectrum, because if you see the play, it's repetitive in nature. The repetitive nature reflects even in the child's play. Imaginative play, pretend play, which is very important for language development, is something that children are not able to achieve. So this
Yes.
play thing is very important when we need to work on, when we need to intervene on. So when speech language therapy sessions are play based, so they are even based on helping a child develop his play skills, which will in turn reflect on his language skills as well. So this
Yes.
is something very important that
So
we
pretend play
target
is
on.
a very pretend play is a very important aspect of social communication. That they start that early pretend play at around 18 months when they're just doing it with self, where they pretend to talk on a phone, or pretend to put their dolly to sleep or feed a dolly, and
Pretend
then it again
mama.
develops. Yes, they will involve other family members. I made this for you. I made chai for you, and they'll do something with their tea set, and then it advances into role playing, where by 4 years they are chalo, I'll be mummy, you be daddy, or I'll be chor, you be police, and they will dress up. They'll take mama's dupatta, they'll dress up, put makeup. So they do a lot of this role playing as they grow older. So even play has its own milestones, and children with autism are not able to engage, think of themselves as somebody else, take up even that role, or I can use this object to pretend that it is like this. I can
Pretend that
use
this
this
is something
block to
different,
pretend it to be as a
symbolically.
phone. Yes. And what you said that, there are so many children where, in fact, it does not concern parents initially because they are labeling a lot of things. So, they would be actually showing advanced skills that at 1.5 year, my child was identifying colors. At, my child was, naming so many things. So many of the children have actually advanced skills, in some of those receptive language abilities where they are labeling a lot of things even beyond what is expected for their age. So at 1.5, 2 years, they may be knowing 10 colors, which we otherwise may not expect them to know. But at the same
Right.
time, they are
Yeah.
Was my voice lost?
It was paused. We lost you in between. Yeah.
Yes, so I was just talking about, I don't know till when you heard me, but we were talking about labeling. You had brought up that
Labeling.
point that they are able to label a lot of things, and they may, in fact, even show advanced skills there. That, at 1.5, 2 years, they are able to name a lot of colors, they are able to label a lot of fruits, vegetables, and in fact, parents are proud that, मेरे बच्चे को इतना सब कुछ आता है, letters भी identify करता है, ABCD, 1, 2, 3. They are able to identify all the letters of the alphabet. But when it comes to conversation, so they may be even, labeling a lot of rare fruits. But if they want an apple, they're not able to tell mama apple.
They're not able to.
So,
Yes. Right.
so for apple, the child would still pull mama and take, and not
Also,
point, but pull and put the mama's hand on the apple.
yeah. Also, one more point I would like to add is the communication is mostly need based. Only for requesting. I want this. I
Yes.
don't want this, or I want that. So communication is very need based communication. Whereas if we see children, they're communicating for a variety of things, for asking for help, for gaining adults' attention, for asking for information, for negotiating with adults. So these are the skills
Yes,
that are
yes.
really lacking in children who are on
As they start growing older, they also learn manipulations, and they know किसका कहाँ से काम निकलवाना है, and किसके साथ कैसे, and those social cues, also modulating their tone, modulating their behavior while they are in school, or while they are with friends, or while they are at somebody's house. So a lot of those pragmatic abilities, where changing your social behavior as per the social setting is also an important aspect, which children with autism find it difficult to understand.
For a child with autism, like, you need to teach them every social setting. It's like you
Yes,
need to model them how they are supposed to be in every particular social situation. So that is something where it differs from a child who would be having a typical language delay.
hello,
Yeah.
I lost your voice again.
Yeah. So I was saying that children with autism, like, they have to be taught every social skill in social
Yes,
situations, like, what is expected, how are they supposed to interact. So that is something that has to be taught to them. They cannot learn from the environment. They cannot observe people and learn
yes,
from the environment.
yes.
Yeah. So, coming to the last question, ma'am, what would be your message to parents, carers, educators regarding autism awareness as well as acceptance? Acceptance is something very important because this population is neurodiverse. Even if a child
Yes.
starts communicating, starts interacting, some features of autism remain. Okay, and those require acceptance from our side, acceptance even from peers, so that the child can interact and be accepted as a part of a society.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one can, write an essay on, that one question that you have asked. That, but if I have to, cut it short, for parents, I would just put it as, anybody who sees any early signs, you know, please don't wait, but go for help, and go for the interventions. And there is nothing, you should not be scared of any labels, because it is ultimately, we are not looking at words or labels, we are looking at the help that we can give the child. So early diagnosis, early picking up of signs, early diagnosis, early intervention is very, very important. Now, when can that be fruitfully achieved is definitely when parents do have that acceptance. So with parents also, they typically tend to go through phases of denial, then they have that shock, and then they have, it's almost like grief. They grieve, because when they hear the diagnosis, and then eventually it is acceptance when they start, especially when they start interventions, and when they start seeing improvements, it gives them the hope that yes, my child can get better. So supporting them through this journey is very important for professionals, and we as a team, because therapists are also meeting parents on a much more regular basis, and medical professionals are meeting parents. So as a team, we need to definitely support the parents through their journey, understanding what they are going through. So supporting, and again identifying the strengths and challenges of the child, because every child is different. You have your challenges, but at the same time also looking at what is a child good at, what are the strengths of the child, and bringing it out, having that positive environment, positive vibes is very important to make the parent feel hopeful that yes, my child can get better. So again, emphasizing on that little achievements what your child is achieving. So it makes the parent, empowering parents, parent training, because 24/7 child is with the parents. So it is not about parents ab bahar baitho, hum darwaza band karke hum therapy karte,
I would
it is
100%
not going to. Yes, but sometimes it happens where the parents are not even aware of what is happening. But making parent a part of your sessions, unless the child is very very clingy and doesn't do anything, then you would take your calls of when to have the parent in, or when to have try and do the sessions alone. But empowering them and making them a part, so they feel that they are a part of the interventions, that because they can learn and carry it forward, because it is very important for generalization, because finally we don't want the child to be doing only with the therapist in the therapy room. We want the child to be able to achieve that skill in different settings with different people. So it is very important to help parents help the child generalize the skills. So there is a lot of things which therapists and we as a team can help the parents with. And again, finally, for parents, caretakers, it is we know it is a long journey, and different children have different sets of challenges. There are some children who need a lot of support. There are some children who are doing better even with minimal support. But as we said, that it does not completely go away, and again challenges keep changing with the age as a child grows older. So the challenge in a 2-year-old, we are working on words, but a challenge in a child who is going to school and who is struggling with peer interactions or getting bullied. So, the challenges change, and so we need to anticipate also certain challenges, and, help the parents be prepared and, work towards it. And important for the parents to take
with
care of
regards to
themselves. Yeah, go
with
on.
regards to getting bullied, I would add that parents of typically developing children, they need to sensitize themselves as well as their children
Sensitive.
to other
Yes.
people who would not be the same as them. They are diverse. They are
Absolutely. So
neurologically
what we
diverse.
call is inclusion, inclusion. So we need a inclusive society. It is, inclusion at all levels. Inclusion at, even the personal level, at the level of the family, not comparing two children, two siblings, कि ये करता है, ये नहीं कर पा रहा है. So right from, acceptance within the family, extended family, to again having an inclusive school setup, to again having an inclusive society, and even as an adult to have job opportunities, to include them with different things. So finally it is a change at an individual level to bring about that change. It is the outlook that we have as an individual to bring about that change as a society. So increasing the awareness that of neurodiversity, that people can be different, and supporting them, loving them, caring them through their journey. And for parents, definitely, I would also say that taking care of their own selves is very important,
True.
because it can be exhausting, it can be very stressful. Parents have their breakdowns, and they may have their anxieties, they may be going through depression. So taking their own breaks, it's not that their life should stop. They should still take their breaks to go out for their walks, do what they like to do, do their singing classes or do their painting or go for movies, read, but they need to rejuvenate themselves with things that they like to do, so, that will sustain them to take care of their child.
True, ma'am. That was a very good point that you made about parents, because many times parents, they forget to take care of themselves. They are so busy in the
Yes.
therapies, in school, that it's just a rush and they don't give that time to themselves, but they really need time for themselves as well. Even if we as therapists, we need to, when we are giving activities or telling parents to do activities, we need to give such simple activities which are, parents can do it, they're doable, not
Yes,
something which is very complicated which they won't execute later on. So
yes.
all
And I
these
think
things.
involving, like, parents can support each other. It's not just mommy who has to do it, but, daddy can also pitch in, or, other family members can pitch in that, okay, we are doing this, you take your break and come.
Yes. True. A supportive family plays a huge role. Even supportive teachers, I would say, are very important.
Yes,
When children are struggling with academics or struggling with a noisy environment in school, supporting teachers really play a good role in helping the child bloom and develop. So, very, very important. Even that part would be. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Inclusive schooling should be there everywhere. It's, we definitely, there are now more inclusive schooling, school options coming up, but, it should be a part of, all schools, that teachers are sensitized, the staff is sensitized, so that they can sensitize other children, because, so many of these children also land up getting bullied. Sometimes they're not able to understand, they are not able to, some children may be just going on and on about their fixed interests, just keep talking about only the thing that they like to do, or they're not able to pick up social cues from, other children, that, now stop, it's enough now, because, sometimes they just don't understand those social boundaries. So again, they land up getting secluded, many of them land up getting bullied. So having teachers sensitize and also sensitize other children is very important.
True, true. That's very true. So, thank you very much, ma'am. Like, it was a wonderful session, and you have given some wonderful inputs
I
about
think we can
autism,
keep
right from
talking
the.
about this, and it's so much to talk about, and so much to share, that we can just go on and on. But it's just about, everybody understanding, being aware is so important.
It's very important. If awareness, through awareness will come acceptance, and acceptance is what we really want to see in the society. What children and parents really want to see in the society, and that's really important. So. Even like the autism symbol, it's people like adults with autism now, they prefer the infinity symbol, showing the neurodiversity of the spectrum, rather than they don't like to be called a puzzle piece, who, they are not a missing puzzle piece to be completed. They're complete in themselves. People need to accept them as they are. So that is a very
Absolutely.
important message for all to take from here. So it was
It
wonderful
was
to
it
have
was
you
really
here,
nice
ma'am.
talking to you, and, all of you also. It was really nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really nice interacting with you and having all the people join in. And definitely, we all should keep in touch, because we all have the same goal of helping these children.
Sure. Right. Right, ma'am. There are many parents also over here, fellow parents who have joined here. So
Yes.
uh, it was a nice message even for them. And I hope this information really helps everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. So I'll end this session from my side now. Okay, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you.